Today is going to be a good day. Why, you ask? Because today we get to talk about Paul Kersey shooting down creeps in the street. It's Deathwish 3 next on Your Reviews. Guys, Deathwish 3 is one of my favorite canon films. I'm briefly going to go into the plot because there's not much here to talk about plot-wise. You basically got Paul Kersey, and he's coming to New York to reunite with one of his friends who gets murdered in the opening scene. And so you basically got a personal vendetta, as you always do in these movies. But this time, there's this huge street gang, and they're terrorizing, the entire neighborhood here in New York. And Paul Kersey systematically takes them down, sometimes not one by one, sometimes several at a time. And that's the basic plot of Deathwish 3. I love this movie. This movie is a live-action cartoon. This movie, to me, is the Roadrunner with guns. It's that much fun. This movie was inspired by real-life events. I believe it was in 1984, and there was this guy named Bernard Goetz. He was the vigilante subway killer, and he was attacked by these four thugs and shot them all. So this movie was rushed into production by Canon Films to capitalize on that, which that's an interesting fact in itself. But performance-wise in this movie, Charles Bronson's basically like an urban Rambo. He's got this wieldy .475 Magnum that shoots this, elephant cartridge. When he shoots the giggler, that's a funny scene. I'll get to that in a little bit. But, he's got that. He's got this anti-tank rocket launcher. He's got his .30 caliber machine gun. It's great. It's as the old people in the neighborhood finally start to rally behind him and fight back. And Bronson was pretty old here. I believe he was 64 when this was filmed, but he's still robust enough to pull this off. He's running down the streets, which is more than you can say these days for like Steven Seagal, who's like the same age. All of the punks in this movie are really good. The leader of the gang is Gavin O'Herlihy. He's Dan O'Herlihy's son. You know him as the old man from RoboCop and Connell Cochran from Halloween 3. He is so ugly as this character, with the stripe carved out the middle of his head and the face paint. You can't wait for this character to die. He's so despicable. Alex Winter from Bill and Ted is in this as one of his first acting roles. Rico Ross, who played Frost in Aliens, is in this as well. All those characters get wasted by Kersey. And all those characters are so despicable in this movie. They're stealing and looting, and of course this is Deathwish, so they're raping. And you can't have a Deathwish movie without that. All the women in this series are made out of paper mache. They can just break so easily. And speaking of that, the Hispanic neighbors downstairs, she gets attacked and, of course, raped, sent to the hospital, and they're worried about her welfare. Kersey gets a phone call. Oh, she's going to be okay. She's just got a broken arm. And so when they get to the hospital, they're like, we're sorry, but she expired. It's like, she what? Oh, I love the dialogue in this movie, but yeah, apparently there was a blood clot, but yeah, this guy's wife literally died from a broken arm in this movie. That's how ridiculous this movie is, but I absolutely love it at the same time. You got Bronson, and of course, he has a love interest in this movie. It's the public defender, after he's arrested there in the beginning of the movie, where, he gets in with the chief of police, and they start cleaning up crime in the city. She asks him out on a date. Of course, they go. And then on their second date, while he goes into the store to get something, the leader of the gang, and I don't condone violence on women, but this scene made me laugh. He reaches in the car and punches her in the face. And that was just so out of place. It was funny. Puts the car in neutral and rolls it down the hill. And this scene, it's like, what just happened? Because this car is seen going down this hill, maybe 30 miles an hour. And it goes into this busy intersection, hits this car, and of course explodes, and kills yet another Paul Kersey love interest. And I'm like, wait a minute, how did that happen? I guess it's an action movie, so a car has to explode, but they could have sped up the tape or something there. And of course, Kersey's setting these guys up, these gang members. At one point, he buys a car with cash, and the guys are like, hey, what's the problem? As they're scoping out his car, he's like, that's my car. Well, now you're gonna die. And of course, he pulls a gun out on him and shoots him. He sets up the giggler. He gets this Nikon camera and swings it over his shoulder. He's been shown earlier, stealing pocketbooks and everything from these elderly women. He runs by and gets it. Pulls a wieldy magnum out of his pants, shoots him. And I love this scene. And after he blows a hole the size of Texas through the giggler's chest, and he's lying there dead in his own blood, everybody from the rooftops are going, "Yay, murder!" It's just a surreal moment in this movie. It made me laugh. If you can't watch this scene and not laugh about the people, upstairs and up on top of the buildings, cheering on murder and laughing and cheering Paul Kersey, maybe you're taking life just a little bit too seriously, because that scene was just glorious. But the last act of this movie is where it really shines. You've got O'Herlihy's character there, and he calls in reinforcements, to come take out Kersey. So all these bikers, everybody descends right there on that neighborhood. And of course, Kersey and the Hispanic guy, they're taking out the guns and they're shooting everybody down. At one point, Ed Lauder, the chief of police, he had set Kersey up to help him take out all these bad guys. It's so good. They're running down the street, Old West style, just shooting. Bad guys are falling off of the tops of these buildings, kind of like old cowboys falling off balconies. It reminds me of like an Old West shootout, and it's great. They got each other's back as they're just running down the middle of this street, bullets flying at them from every direction. But that last part of the movie where they're running down the street shooting and they've got each other's back, it's just so wild and crazy. I absolutely love it. If you can't see the humor and appreciate that scene, I don't know that we can be friends anymore, but I digress. That last scene of the movie where O'Herlihy, whose character's name's Fraker, comes through the window, and he's got Lauder and Bronson dead to rights, and Bronson pulls out that rocket launcher and just blows a hole out the side of the apartment building, is absolutely glorious. I love that scene. That's the way to end the movie. And that fast cut where they show his face right before the rocket hits him is amazing. Thank you, Michael Winner, for directing this movie. I had so much fun revisiting this movie. I hadn't seen it in about 5 years, and I just watched it again this afternoon. It is so much fun. I'm going to give Deathwish 3 a 6.5 out of 10. To me, I don't know that this is the best Deathwish film, but it's definitely the most fun. This is some of the most fun you can have in 90 minutes. And as far as canon films that I've seen, I'd put it right there with like Bloodsport and Firewalker as some of the most fun, maybe one of their best films they ever did. So guys, let me know how much you like or dislike Deathwish 3 down in the comments. Give me your favorite Deathwish quote down there. There's so many good ones, whether it's from this movie or Deathwish 2. Oh, you like Jesus, do you? Well, you're gonna meet him. Just so much good stuff. If you like what you see, guys, be sure to like and subscribe. And as always, I'm Andrew, and I'll see you down the line.